And he tried to get in, he couldn't get in. And even if he did have availability, it was way too expensive. He didn't have the money. So he had a buddy who had a semi-trailer, and he's like, you know what? What if I parked a semi-trailer there somewhere close early in the morning and blocked off some parking spots, and then maybe I could, show some people my shoes that are walking into the place. And he went to the city to get a permit, because they said, you're gonna have to permit to do that. And he says, you can't do that. Either you're a utility company, or you're a production company that's writing a movie. And he's like, writing a movie, production company? All right, maybe I could work with that. All right, welcome back. My name's Jason.
I'm Colter.
And this is the Massive and Passive Income Show.
Yes, it is.
I am excited to be here. So most of the time we talk about real estate, but we talk about business, we talk about real estate, and in order to run a business and be in real estate, you got to get your head straight. I think a lot of times people, they especially start a new business, all your insecurities come out, all of your fears come out, and a lot of times that's what stops people.
It really is. And I was talking to some folks. I get to do ski patrol. I volunteered
helped out
at a local mountain.
My son's friend.
Yeah. So Jason's son came in with a friend that had busted up his leg, and anyways, I like to serve in that way. And there's a couple other organizations I get involved in, but there was a time when I was sitting with a couple of other individuals, and they asked, well, what do you do professionally? And I just said, well, I invest in real estate. And we started to talk about that, and her husband is a handyman and does a bunch of carpentry work, and but they've never invested in real estate. She has a really good job. He does handyman work, and I just started to express and ask questions. Have you ever invested in a property or done your own fix and flip? And they feel like it's risky.
Yeah.
But he can do all of the work, and so that takes some of the risk off of being able to control the costs. And anyways, I looked at that and I just said, if you look at some opportunities, you can solve some problems for you. You deal with a whole bunch of taxes over here. If you'll just invest in a little bit of real estate over here, pick up one property every year, every 5 years, and by the end of 25 years, you've collected, something that's worth something to you. And but there's a barrier there that they're hitting, and they're trying to overcome that, or maybe they're not even trying to overcome that because they don't know what they don't know.
Yeah. So I love this. I love that segue into this, because there's a story that I heard. Oh man, I probably heard it 20 years ago, and then I got reminded again about 10 years ago, and then I got reminded again about it about a year ago. One of my friends, Jason, he talked about it, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I remember that story, and I love it. It talks about that you're going to run into roadblocks, but even though it's a roadblock, there's ways to go through that roadblock. There's ways to, one door closes, another door opens, and I think this just illustrates it really well. And this is a story about Kenneth Cole, who was a shoe guy, right? Mm-hmm. He does shoes. I've had a pair of his shoes. They're great. And anyway, so he grew up with a dad who was in the ladies' shoe department, ladies' shoes. They had a factory that did ladies' shoes. And he was going to do that, but he worked out as a kid, and then he decided to go to law school, and he got to law school, and he's like, you know what, law school is not for me. But he goes, I want to start my own company. He knew shoes, so he thought, I'm going to start a men's shoe company. He went to Italy and talked to a few manufacturers, figured out what kind of shoes he wanted to do, built a couple prototypes, and he came back to New York City. When he got to New York City, I guess there's this huge market week that everybody at the Hilton, and that's where everybody shows their shoes for the next year, and shoe companies, new shoe companies, all this different stuff, they come to this place. And he tried to get in, he couldn't get in. And even if he did have availability, it was way too expensive. He didn't have the money. So he had a buddy who had a semi-trailer, and he's like, you know what? What if I parked a semi-trailer there somewhere close early in the morning and blocked off some parking spots, and then maybe I could, show some people my shoes that are walking into the place. And he went to the city to get a permit, because they said, you're gonna have to permit to do that. And he says, you can't do that. Either you're a utility company, or you're a production company that's writing a movie. And he's like, writing a movie, production company? All right, maybe I could work with that. So he changed his name to Kenneth Cole Productions, and he made a movie, got the permit, made a movie starting a shoe company. That was his movie. He hired a camera crew, cost him $14 for their permit. He got a semi trailer. This is 1982. They parked it on the side of the road, and he went to work. They had a crew out there. People were like, "What are you doing?" Well, we're filming a startup of how to start a shoe company or shoe company, startup or however he positioned it. But people flocked to the place. He got 40,000 shoe sales that week.
Oh my word.
And the first year he made $3 million, $1 million in profit. That was his total of what he sold, and $1 million in profit. And Kenneth Cole Productions was born. And it's still called Kenneth Cole Productions. They didn't drop the productions part because he wanted a reminder of how they started. And he says in later in the story, he says, anything that comes our way, we always think, okay, there's got to be another way to do this. There's got to be another way to make this happen. Like a door shuts, let's just start a production company. That's what they always talk about. Even though it has nothing to do with production, but they're like, let's just do something that'll make this work so we can push through this barrier and we're gonna come out better on the other side. And I love that story because I think so many times we get into a situation and we think, oh, it's not gonna work. And he could have given up. He could have given up at the point where he didn't have any room at the place. Like, we're all sold out, and even if we did have a spot, it's a lot of money, you don't even have the money. So he was innovative enough to say, well, maybe I can park a trailer. My buddy owns a semi-trailer, but then he couldn't do that. So every time a barrier happened, he pushed through that. I tell people all the time, ask questions. Information's free. You're never gonna know unless you ask the questions. And if he would have gone out of the city and asked for a permit, he would have known what to do and how to make that happen to be who he is today.
Wow. Well, when one door closes, another one opens. Right? But it's a matter of looking for those doors, understanding what those doors mean, going through the regulations, talking to the right people. I mean, he went through a process of, hey, I'm going to do it this way. And when the city said, no, you can't do that, he says, okay, well, what can a person do?
Yeah.
What can I do? And asking those questions, like, you have to know that if you do not get what you do not ask for.
So true.
And you will not know what you don't ask for. And so if we're trying to obtain enough knowledge and resources and time to be able to get something done, we have to ask questions.
Yep.
Over and over and over again.
And I'm amazed at how many times I've been able to find solutions when somebody says, oh, you can't do that. And I just go back, so how can I? Oh, and most of the time it's something so little. It's something so, oh, well, as long as you said this or as long as you do this, then you can have that. I'm like, wow, why didn't you lead with that? Because I almost turned around and walked away when it was something simple.
Yeah. Well, and that's where we have to look for the simple things. We've said this on another couple of episodes, but the opportunity of a lifetime comes around but once a week.
Yeah.
Right? It's not about having enough opportunities, it's about selecting the right ones. But it's also about asking the right questions so that you understand which ones are the right ones.
And sometimes you have to create your opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, you have to create your opportunity. Kenneth Cole went from Kenneth Cole the shoe to Kenneth Cole Productions. I'm gonna create a video production company to create a movie. I'm now a movie producer, exactly. So I can sell 40,000 pairs of shoes to make $3 million, which $3 million back in the 80s.
Oh yeah,
was
and it was $1 million profit. He sold $3 million worth of product and $1 million profit each first year.
Phenomenal.
And I read later in the story, his dad had never made $1 million in his company that he made women's shoes.
Wow.
Yeah.
And he did it in the first year.
First year.
Yeah. Well,
because most people would have been like, oh, I got to be a utility company or a movie company. I guess I'm out.
Yeah.
That's exactly what they would have done. But he was like, I'm not giving up on this. You want a production company? I'll start a production company. and I can only imagine him going back to his partners, because I bet he had a partner. Guess what we're going to do? We're going to have a production company. And this is what we're going to have happen. I can only imagine the partner's like, we're doing what? I thought we were selling shoes.
We're hiring a videographer, not a shoemaker.
Exactly.
How do you feel about that, Ryan?
Yeah, it's so true. And I think sometimes we shut ourselves down before we give ourselves a chance to, I don't know if the right words, gestate or germinate. I don't know. I think sometimes our thoughts go so fast that we don't slow down enough to let a thought land and then let that thought, what's the word I'm looking for? Let that thought, not germinate. Let that thought
flourish, grow.
Yeah, just let it sit and think through it. Because I think sometimes if we do, or most time if we do, we can find solutions. It's that it's when you shut down and don't talk that the solutions don't happen.
Yeah. What is it? Nurturing takes time and nourishment, right? So for something to grow, it takes some time and it takes the right ingredients to help that grow.
Yeah.
So, if we don't nurture the idea into something greater than what it started out as, it'll never develop into something. So,
Yep.
Yeah, I love it. What a great story, Kenneth Cole Productions.
Yeah.
So glad we could share that with you. Do not stop at your first no.
Yeah.
One no is not no forever. One no is how many no's can I get until I get a yes?
And if somebody says you can't do that, then ask that question, so how can I? I know what I just said, I can't do that. And a lot of times you go in there explain what you're doing because you don't even have any idea what it is that they need to hear. And that's where you want them to talk. Hey, I know I can't do this, but how could I? What will I have to do to make this so I can make it work? And most of the time they're like, oh, well, you got to change this, you can't change this, you can't do that, but you could do this. And then you get creative. Mm-hmm. And you're like, okay, well, I can't do that, but I can still get the same result here. I just got to go a different way to get there.
So let me share an example on that. Now, we're running out of time here, but we just bought a property in Pocatello, Idaho. And it's actually 10 units, 3 different buildings, and on one lot. But I found out that it used to be 2 separate lots. And so we went into the city and said, hey, you know what? And I didn't know that before, but I went into the city and said, hey, we want to split these buildings into their own separate lots. I want 3 different parcel numbers so that I can sell 3 different properties. And they're like, well, this is going to go through this, and it's going to take, probably 6 months to a year to be able to go through that. You're going to have to hire a surveyor, have to go through this. And so I kept asking questions. Well, okay, what can I do? Or, how about we do this? Is there a lot line adjustment that we can do instead of a subdivision? And so then we went down this road with the city planner. He says, oh, well, there used to be 2 lots here. So why don't we just go back to the original lots? And then you do just a simple lot line adjustment around the one building that spans the 2 lots. We're like, perfect. So we still have to hire a surveyor and an engineer, but our ask to them was, hey, we just want to split these 2 properties up, or these 3, and we didn't get all 3, but we got 2, which is 2/3 of what we originally asked for, which is way more than 0.
Yeah, and you wouldn't have got it if you wouldn't have asked the question.
Right.
I love that. You don't get what you don't ask for. You really don't. And unless you go in and start talking to people, you start getting in front of people. Don't do it through email or text. Obviously that's a good way to communicate, but if you could sit down and talk with somebody, it's amazing how much more you can accomplish if you just text, hey, I'd like to separate these lots off into 3. Yeah, we can't do that. But if you sit down and say, hey, this is what we want to do, then they're thinking, okay, they get creative with you. Well, how could we make this work? Then he's right there and he looks at it. You're right there in front of you. Oh, well, there used to be 2 lots there. We could switch these up. And then your business partner told me they just did something else. They just said about the commercial front end.
Yeah.
Yeah, they decided they didn't need to do that either.
They did.
Yeah, which is awesome. And it's just sitting down, building a relationship, talking with people and say, okay, this is what we want to do. Don't tell me how I can't. Tell me how I can. Because you can't. You're all your life. Yeah, growing up, you can't do that, son, can't do that. Well, I want to do this, I can't do that. So then change it. Just say, well, then how can I?
Yeah. Well, and I love the quote, if you think you can or can't, you are correct.
Yeah. How much time have we got? We got another few minutes? Yeah. Okay, I love that. I don't know if I've shared this. I shared this story about my son wanting to go to LA with his buddies.
Yeah, you have with me.
Have I?
But let's hear it.
Did I do it on the podcast? Oh, okay. I won't do it again. Because that's what I was looking for. He come in, he's like, can I go? No, you cannot go. So then I whispered to him on the side, is like, figure this out. If you want to go, get creative. Because just what you just told me right now, there isn't a dad in the world that's going to let you go down to LA with your buddies. And so he came back with this big, huge deal. He did a PowerPoint. He got all the parents together. He created all these solutions. He created all these things. And what he thought to himself is, okay, why don't my dad want me to go? Why does he say no? Well, probably because this. So he solved all the stuff that he thought I would have a problem with. And at the end of the thing, I'm like, you guys are going to have so much fun in LA. And he's like, really? Like, he was so excited because he got creative on not just saying no. And so always going to every situation, asking questions, go into every situation on not just taking a no for an answer. Because if he would have just taken a no for an answer, they would have never gone. And they had the time of their life down there with him and 5 of his buddies. I mean, I love that they were able to make that happen and create those memories.
And it took creativeness, innovation, and just the willpower to go and make it happen.
Yep.
Well, thanks for joining us.
Yeah. Great episode.
Go get it.
Yeah.